What's going on, guys? Today I have another very special video for you. We are going to be going over Google or Alphabet's earnings. It is coming up here soon in the next couple of days. So we are going to be going over what are the expectations from the market, where do they see revenue coming in, where do they see EPS coming in, and then we are going to be taking a look at catalysts within the business. So what does the business have going on behind the scenes that will either help Google beat or miss their earnings? So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. Let's start off by taking a quick look at Google's chart. So we can see here that Google right now is trading at $101.13. Today or Friday, they had a 1.16% move. Over the last 5 days, they are up 2.24%. Over the last month, around 1%, and then 6 months down over 15%. So overall, over the last 5 days, it looks like into earnings, the stock is actually trading up and people are kind of expecting results to be okay, or at least somewhat good as compared to, what the market has priced in over the last 6 months. So let's go ahead and jump into when earnings actually takes place. Google is set to announce their earnings on Tuesday, October 25th. So you can see here, there's the two Googles. The difference is basically GOOG has no voting rights, while GOOGL shares do have voting rights. So again, they're both listed here, not a big deal, same consensus, same earnings announcement, same parent company. What I did highlight additionally though is Visa and UPS. UPS is going to be super important. So they actually announce at the start of the day, and they will probably dictate how the market moves throughout Tuesday. If UPS comes out and basically projects has good numbers, and then also projects a lot of good numbers for the Christmas quarter, the upcoming quarter, that is going to have a huge impact on these other companies and on the rest of the market, right? Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, all those companies are going to have a lot better earnings, especially Google, because Google, right, they are doing all the advertising for the businesses that are using a UPS or a FedEx or whatever it may be to ship their goods to the final consumer. So again, we want to see good numbers out of UPS and good forward projections out of UPS. And then Visa is also another super important one, right? Everyone, I believe the market share on Visa is like 50% of all credit cards are Visa credit cards. So they have absolutely a huge market share. They understand where consumers are spending their money, what they're spending their money on. And again, that will all relate back to Google and how they basically run their ad business. So again, that's occurring at the same time. So they are in the evening. So they'll be occurring around the same time as Google. So it won't, have as huge of an effect, but they're going to have a huge effect on the overall market, both of these two companies highlighted in green. So overall, again, Google is expected around a 1.25 EPS. And it's always interesting to take that and actually look at where EPS has came in over the last few quarters. And again, right here, so they have a slightly different number, not really any different, but $1.26 expected for EPS, revenue expected around $70.72 billion. And here is where it gets interesting, right? So the last 2 quarters, they have actually missed by 6% and by 3.5% on their EPS. And then the revenue's been basically in line the last couple of quarters. So it would be interesting to see with the market kind of trending down and having a lot of negativity over the last quarter, I would almost expect these earnings to be projected even lower, especially after these 2 misses. So it's very interesting because it's kind of set up for Google to potentially have a good or at least somewhat solid beat, which we also have seen in Q4 and Q3 of last year. So they beat by 20% and 12.5% on those EPS numbers. So it's kind of like they're being set up for potentially a good beat. Where, right now projections are really low. They've missed their last 2 EPS. So you kind of expect this expected result of $1.26 to be actually lower than, where they might actually come in. So even if they come in line or with a slight miss here, I wouldn't really expect the stock to move a whole lot. But if they come in and they put it up like a double-digit beat, where maybe it's a 10%, even 8%, then we might start seeing Google stock actually spike back up, especially revenue too. If we see revenue come in with, a solid maybe 2 to 5% beat, that would be huge for the stock as well. Here we have an article laying out some of the expectations basically over this earnings. And it's very interesting. So this first number, Zacks consensus estimate. So Zacks is basically a firm that evaluates companies, sees where the earnings are at, and kind of gives ratings on whether they're buy, hold, sell, whatever it may be. So they are actually projecting revenue to only be at 58.35 billion. So obviously that is over 10 billion less than the 70 billion mark that we saw on Google here. And that's very interesting. That would be an 8.8% improve year over year. But they are also projecting basically in line with what Google estimated for $1.25, which would be a 10.7% fall from the previous year's reported number. So they're kind of expecting revenue to actually increase year over year, but earnings to actually decrease year over year. And that would basically be in line with the expectation that Google has increasing costs, but they are still growing the business. And Google over the last quarter, I've made a video on it, but basically they have been looking at and talked about in their, their annual meeting with employees about cost cutting measures and reducing the overall costs, reducing, hiring and things like that. So it would be interesting to see if those have actually taken effect and if this EPS number will actually come in higher or if they're still, easing into some of those cost cutting measures. And the final thing here is delivering an earnings surprise of 6.8% on average. So basically over the last 4 quarters, they've averaged a difference from Zacks estimate of 6.8%. So that's kind of saying that, Zacks isn't always correct. It's obviously within a decent range though of 10%. So again, if they could surprise by more than this, especially to the upside, surprise by like 8%, 10%, then that's where you start seeing bigger moves come in from the market because it's not already priced in, right? A lot of people will price in the expectation of a certain move within, 5% of the stock. But, if they come in outside of that range, that's where the stock really starts to move. So I don't want to spend too much time on this section, but what we have here is Google, Alphabet. They keep growing their search engine business, keep optimizing it for better results for the end user, and also to better drive ads to the right subsect of basically their customer base. So, right, if you are have a baby, maybe they'll, advertise diapers to you. So they're always trying to optimize that, which is a huge benefit, huge thing going forward. The best part of that with Google is that they have an over 90% market share on search engine, which is absolutely insane, right? You have Bing behind them and then a couple others, but Google is primarily the only one that's really used by over 90% of the market. So that is absolutely insane. Again, they keep optimizing other things like Maps, Google Assistant, their AI, everything like that. Here is the first one that I really wanted to point out. This is something that's important in my opinion because it kind of touches on the social media aspect. So they are strengthening momentum across YouTube Shorts. It's expected to have driven consistent growth in subscriber base on YouTube in the 3rd quarter. So this is huge because basically YouTube has taken a strong stance over the last kind of 6 months of trying to fight back against TikTok. So they have rolled out YouTube Shorts, and then they've also actually been reaching out to a lot of their users and basically asking for feedback on what do you prefer to use? Do you prefer to use YouTube Shorts or TikTok? How basically can they get more users onto the platform? They've been looking at basically everything, and they are still continuing to optimize that side of the business, right? They don't really run a whole lot of ads through the YouTube Shorts. They're trying to work on that, and they're also trying to work on how that they can basically get the content creators paid a lot easier than TikTok. So that is one thing that will be absolutely huge is if they can find out a solid way to basically monetize YouTube Shorts for the creators of those businesses or of those YouTube Shorts, then they'll actually drive a lot more people away from TikTok and to the YouTube platform. Another huge growth vector for Google is their cloud business. So Google is actually 3rd in terms of market share. So you have AWS, and then you have Microsoft's cloud, and then you have Google at 10%. So they are over half or less than half of Microsoft's market share. But what you tend to see, because cloud is such a new business and it's growing a lot, what you tend to see is a lot of these players, as it becomes more and more established, what cloud is, who the top players are, you start to see a lot of these smaller guys drop off. So I'm kind of expecting like IBM, Salesforce, Oracle, a lot of these guys to drop out of the system, and hopefully Google actually capitalize on that. So if they were, to gain just a few percentage points from all of these, they could get up to that 15, maybe 20%. And then you might see, you know, a couple of these top dogs also gain a percent or two. But Google really needs to get into that, you know, 15 to 20% mark, I think, to stay competitive. Alibaba, I just want to mention that here because I do own Alibaba. They have a huge opportunity. China is way behind on the technological side. So when China basically starts getting, you know, 5 years into the future, I'd expect a lot of their cloud-based business to grow rapidly, and they could actually shoot up just because of sheer population that China has. They could actually shoot up to, you know, 20+% just by population increases and technological advances in China. But anyways, Google, again, I think they could easily get to that 15%, 15 to 20% over the next coming years of market share, steal a little bit away from AWS, maybe steal a little bit away from Microsoft, and then also pull up some of these underdogs. The other thing that's been huge over the last quarter is there's been a lot of phones coming out, right? So Google owns Android, and that is something that will be huge, is to see, you know, how much strength has happened there, right? How many people have gone out, purchased new phones, and with that downloaded apps off of Android. So that could be a huge vector for them to, you know, gain a little bit of momentum in this third quarter. And then the final point is one that I wanted to make that we kind of made earlier in the video as well. But right here, we have Alphabet has an earnings expected prediction of -2% by Zacks. So basically what they're saying is they're expecting the earnings to come in 2% lower than where it's projected right now. So it's projected at $1.25-ish. So they're expecting it to come in 2% lower than that number, which again feeds into those expectations that we were talking about. So if we jump back over to their earnings here, we were talking about this, right? That over the last 2 quarters, they have had a miss on their EPS. And the market has been basically tanking ever since. There's been a lot of negative news about Google. Google's hit 52-week lows over the last, you know, month, a quarter. So a lot of the expectations have been baked in that Google is not in a good position. And what this does is it sets it up to capitalize on that, right? If they come in again with a small beat on EPS, a beat on revenue, then the stock could spike up in a meaningful way, especially if you get, you know, a 5 to 10% beat on EPS, and then maybe a 2.5–3% beat on revenue. I think those are all things that could lead to Google stock spiking up. The question is, you know, how much, right? If Google beats by double digits, where it's 10 to 20%, like we've seen in the third and fourth quarter of last year, then, you know, we could expect a very big move up. But if they have smaller beats, I think, you know, it could lead to some sustained growth over the next quarter, especially into the Christmas quarter. And if we see positive news out of UPS, FedEx, some of these other companies, Amazon, that Google kind of relies on for their ad business. So overall, again, I'm kind of expecting them to come in. I think there's a lot of low expectations, so I kind of expect them to come in with a beat for this quarter, and that's, you know, what I hope to happen as a Google shareholder. So again, do your own research, make your own opinions. That is my opinion on Google. I think that they are going to have a solid quarter, and then I think next quarter, I think we'll start seeing inflation numbers come down. I think we're going to see a lot of positive things over the final quarter of the year, and I think the stock market could really start to turn around. At least that's my hope. That's kind of my projection of where we're headed. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you drop a like down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.